I know.
Okay, thanks everyone for being here. We will go ahead and call this meeting to order. And our first order of business is to welcome our new board member, Mara, who is with us. Normally we just do introductions. So if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we can go around so you know all of us. But
Okay, so I'm retired. We moved to Mount Lebanon 4 years ago, but I grew up in Pleasant Hills. So we moved back to Pittsburgh, and when we moved back, I said, we're moving to Mount Lebanon. I'm like, where's that? I'm like, you'll see.
I like that.
You'll like it. Well, she does. So like I said, we moved back 4 years ago. I have a very big family. So we got a house where we can have lots of people over, which we really enjoyed. Prior to this, we lived in Atlanta. Prior to that, we lived in the suburbs of DC. Prior to that, we lived in New Jersey. So we start there. We met in New Jersey where I finished my MBA in Syracuse, gone down to Jersey, worked for AT&T for several years in marketing and sales. Then I worked at Cisco in sales, in both cases just selling to, banks and, those kind of Fortune 500 companies. And so I did that for a bunch of years. And then we moved to DC and I took a few years off. Then we moved to Georgia and I ended up going back to work, but I didn't want to go back into that. So I went into education. So I first started working, because of my business background, I started working in the business side of a private school that my child went to. And I shared with Robin that I did a bunch of grant writing there for scholarships and different training things for the staff there. We had a bunch of different annual funds. We did fundraising to put up it was a building, but it was used as a community gathering. So I have a bunch of background in fundraising, is what I'm getting to. So yeah, I have a bunch of background in fundraising, writing grants and things like that. My real goal was to become a teacher. So simultaneously to working at the school, I was working on a degree in education, which I ended up getting. And then I taught math for a bunch of years. And then I did an after school program for a few years. And then I retired. I moved up here. That's my in a nutshell.
And went on the library board.
And went on the library board, so I'm very, very, very happy about it.
So welcome.
Thank you.
Mara and Robin already know each other. Mara and I have already met. Is there anyone else who hasn't met Mara who would like to say hi, introduce yourselves?
Everybody.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so everybody knows everybody?
Mhm.
All right, we're good. Moving on to the approval of consent agenda items. Robin, anything we need to point out here?
Nothing specifically. I mean, we're so early in the year, we're only about 25% through the year. So if you look, Mara, on page 7 of the report, the profit and loss budget versus actual, fourth column with the percentages, as long as everything's around 25%, and especially the payroll, because that's the most important, that's the biggest chunk of funding that we need to worry about. Sometimes some of the individual line items will be different because we have to pay for a subscription at the beginning of the year or something, so that takes the bulk of a whole line item. But we're right on track, so there's really nothing much to discuss there. It's, like I said, early in the year, so.
Mara, just so you know, our consent agenda items are always a budget update, like not a full budget presentation, but just like that month's update, plus the minutes for last month's meeting, plus the agenda for this meeting. Anything else you wanna go in?
Because this is our annual, it's called our annual meeting in our bylaws. We also have the legal notice, which sets the meeting dates for the upcoming year.
Where's that?
And
Back?
yes, and then it's page 10,
Okay.
if you print it from the vendor. It's third Tuesdays at 7. We don't meet in June, August, October, or December. So those are the dates. If anybody's knows of any reason, it's coincides with, a Jewish holiday or something that we need to be mindful of, just let me know. We can make adjustments right now, pull it out and vote on it separately. I didn't see anything when I put it together, but it doesn't mean I didn't miss something. And then the other thing in the consent agenda is an invoice, because per our fiscal Policy, any purchases made from our unencumbered funds that are over $2,500, I need formal approval of the board. So I sent you an email all about it last week. And so I've included it in the package just so it's formally approved for the record.
So these sort of things are in our consent agenda package every month. You can feel free to look over it in Govenda before we arrive here, and then we usually just approve all the stuff with one single vote, which I will take a motion for now.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by
Or
Chris,
second, whomever.
motion by Anthony, second by Kristen. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Consent agenda package approved. Comments from observers. I hear your withdrawal. That's correct. So we don't have any officially technical observer. No one's online?
Nope.
Okay. Which brings us to our lovely collaborators from Draw. Welcome again.
Hello.
Hi.
Um,
1 second. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so I guess just to introduce yourselves, since some of us are new faces, I'm Chris Brown, I'm a principal at Draw Collective, we're the architecture firm just up on Washington Road if you're heading towards the city on the left, right at the end of Uptown.
Amy George, I'm an interior designer at Draw.
And I'm Rachel Headland, I'm also an interior designer at Draw.
I'm going to formally share this, even though there's no one online, just because I'm not sure what will be recorded and what won't.
So I believe you guys all saw this
Mhm.
last month or the month before as a handout. So
Mhm.
some of it, we're showing again, we're trying to walk you through it kind of more with a little more explanation, but we don't need to belabor it since you've already seen it. And then we were asked to look at some of the costs for this stuff and ways we could attack the project and cut it into some phase pieces. So we'll have that as well.
Hold on, sorry.
just so the rest of the board's clear, Robin and I in the municipality met with Draw, was that like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you'll probably hear a little bit about that meeting, and then we have further updates past that, I
Okay.
think. Do we? Maybe? We'll see. We'll see what you guys have for us. Yeah.
We didn't run into somebody with a pot of money.
Yeah. I was hoping.
But if we do, it's you guys.
Okay, you are all set, Chris, so go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll just start a little bit, then maybe you want to go through it after this, but so this is just an overview of the plan. So in the upper left and just black and white is your existing library layout. You can see the split with the central core and then the primary collection on the left and the children's library on the upper right, with the room coming down. On the right is the overall new plan, showing the ways we've rearranged the core. We've kind of talked about this all before. It's making it a lot more accessible, new accessible restrooms, reorient that, create a new entry into the children's library, so it's a much more clear path to go in there. Open up the courtyard, and we'll show you all that in images. And then the arrows that you see there with the numbers, that's kind of the sequence we're gonna walk through with the series of renderings that we'll talk about. So starting on the bottom right, number 1, looking out, number 2, 3, are kind of over in that area. So that's better.
Yeah, my fault.
You might, can you go forward?
I'm sorry.
Can you go forward one? I think that, there we go. Yes, those numbers, the arrows are just, will be, the order will go through kind of the various rendering we prepared to show you. I don't know if there are any questions about the plan. I think that part's pretty straightforward, but. All right, well, we can start going through them.
So Rachel popped out to the library last week to take images of your current viewpoint and then to show you what the renderings of the new viewpoint. So this is the first rendering, kind of when you first walk into the library, when you go down the ramp, and then if you hit enter, it should go to the, that would be the new view there.
Oh, good.
And then the second view, you can see this is your current area along Castle Shannon Boulevard, with the windows. You can see if, when you get into more detail of the plan, we kept all of this casework that's on the left there, those built-in window seats, those are great. And we see no reason to get rid of those. Those are really wonderful, but when you look at the rendering, you'll see we have lifted up, so you have that ductwork coming down. We've actually lifted it up a little bit. You have plenty of space to do that. We've added acoustic panels, baffles in this space. and varied some of the shelving heights just to allow some more daylight into the space, as well as to kind of create some little nooks that people can still work, so you'll still maintain that steady space that folks are using so much, but we've integrated some shelving into that. And also, we've added book displays around those columns to kind of conceal your columns there. But one of the goals that we had here was, right now your library reads like 3 separate bays, and we really wanted it to feel like one space.
Does anybody want me to turn the lights down or out? Is this okay to see? Can you see it okay?
I'm okay. Can you go back one so I can be reminded what those columns look like now?
Yes.
The other thing that Amy
Okay,
mentioned, it's a
yeah.
little hard to tell, this is like the bottom of that. When you look at the plans, it looks like the duct's higher, so that, we're also raising that, which goes to what Amy was saying about
Mhm.
really connecting those spaces,
Opening it up.
kind of, as you go
Okay.
back into it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's kind of a simple thing, but it really,
Yeah.
And it'll allow your one of our goals is to get the daylight to go as far as it can into the space, and we're also trying to bring it from the courtyard in the other space.
Mhm. Yep.
There. So the next space, this is if you were standing, right now, you have casework here, and I think there's either, in these spaces, there's either some book shelving there, or you have like a computer table there blocking this area. So this is if you were under one of those current ducts. And then in the new view, you can kind of see how just lifting that ceiling really changes your view there. And, you know, you can see the shelving to the next, to the right of the model there. And then this is in that central area here. We actually did not do, the modifications we made to this area, again, are lifting the ducts, but everything is pretty minor. So we just did some new painting. We added some acoustic wall paneling up high, so you can see that up there. And just, you know, updated the finishes here to make it lighter, brighter, but the real change there is lifting those ducts from 7 feet to, I think 9 feet.
I'm really surprised too about, these are currently like a brick red color.
Yeah.
These, what do you call those?
Joyce.
Yeah.
There you go,
Joist.
joist, yeah. But-
Joist to season.
Yeah, but just
Yeah.
painting them white, I mean, that
Right.
just makes an amazing
Yeah.
difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Blows me away.
Paint is amazing that way, isn't it?
Yeah, we did not touch any of the wood ceilings, so even where you see the baffles in the previous rendering, you saw those felt
Mhm.
baffles. That leaves the wood ceiling as it is. So in the, part of our thinking was that in the future, in 20 years from now, maybe you wanna
Right.
have that wood ceiling back. We didn't wanna do something that would really remove that from your options there. And so this is the back area, as you go, there's, you know, the gardening section here, and then you get into the stacks. But you can see the entrance to the courtyard, and then just off to the left is the restroom there. So, you know, the courtyard at the library is so beautiful, so we thought that we could kind of move that shelving along. And this is part of why the core is so important, because we're able to get this view by reconfiguring that core, and we've moved the restrooms into that central core space, which we'll talk about that being the first phase of the project there. But by doing that, you're able to shift those rooms down and really open up the space into the garden. So even with a lower ceiling height here, which we have to have, we're really able to increase the daylight there.
It just looks so much bigger.
And is that south facing that huge window, or is that, which way is that face?
That faces out
Garden
onto the
facing.
garden.
But that would
It's
be a
not
little
there
more
currently.
west.
West facing, west?
West, right?
I don't know.
If north is Washington
That's
Road,
south.
Yeah, that would be
East.
south,
Yeah,
yeah,
south.
backwards, sorry.
east.
East.
And we'll get,
Oh, sorry.
sorry, just, we'll get into the
It's
facing.
facing
of
opposite
how
the
we
middle
broke
school. It's
the
facing
things
opposite the
out.
middle school.
But one of the things you'll notice here, one of the bigger changes also includes the ceiling. So by touching the central core, we're doing a lot of things in the ceiling that will impact the rest of the main library there.
One thing I didn't notice last week, I just picked up on it now. Says architecture, art history, are there gonna be labels like that or identifiers like that across the, throughout the library?
So we have included a signage budget for that. So
Okay,
those
okay.
sorts of labels will be in there. You can also see in some of the other renderings on the sides of the shelves,
Mm-hmm.
we added additional signage. So when we were going through the estimates with our estimator,
Here.
they had like a standard signage package that they include in all projects, and we asked them to increase that number because we know signage is so important to the library, and just to make sure that we really have adequate signage. So it is equated for, I mean, based on how we lay out shelves, I'm not sure,
Sure.
what would be by the library, but yeah, we would have signage. I don't think because of the way the stacks float, we could have signage on standoffs
Mhm.
above everything, but we definitely wanna make sure that we come up with a signage system that works for you and is flexible, so that, I mean, this is mounted on wood, maybe for the actual project, we have it on a plaque that could be like changed out as
Well,
one
one of
election
Sharon's ideas has
changes.
been to put like iPads basically on the ends of, little
Mhm.
screens on the ends of each stack so that they're
Yes.
easily changeable. But we have been working for several years on making our signs more clear. So like this says newspapers, gardening along the wall
Right.
there. To make it more browsable. So
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely part of the plan. Okay, ready to move on?
Yes, and now so this is the children's library. When you first walk into the children's area there, so you've cleared kind of the long tunnel there, and then you can see that ductwork is really obtrusive to the windows there, and you're just met with shelving. So here, the duct is still there, but we've used a soft duct for it and just taken out the drywall that encased it. And then we've added the trees, which would be a big acoustic element to it as well. And we played with shelving height, we've turned the shelves so that the staff are able to see a little bit more into the children's area to kind of keep visuals on kids, but it still, I don't wanna oversell that, it will still be challenging, especially as you add like books on top of shelves and stuff like that.
It's just the nature of the
Yeah.
room.
So the next slide is another area in the children's area, and it kind of shows back by the book. There's like these little book nooks by the murals there. So that area, when we met with the librarians, they're really inspired by, or they talked to us a lot about incorporating trees and nature from Mount Lebanon being more of like a tree city area, and then also the inspiration of Mr. Rogers. So you can kind of see where we wanted to make this area feel a little bit more playful for the kids, but also have that ceiling like lowered a little bit so they feel a sense of place and space, like that is their space in that area. there.
Coziness.
Yes, coziness. And then this is the children's story room here. In our current plans, we have it in there to replace the windows with windows that are a little bit more open, and then also to add a lot more glazing and kind of reconfigure the story room a little bit so that it's much more open for people. And we've added this fun wall covering to kind of look like a sunrise. This way, when the story room, if the story room were ever to need to be able to bleed out into the rest of the space, you can do that. There would also be access to the garden from the story room there.
This is one of the things the children's librarians are most excited about because the story time room gets packed to the gills sometimes. And to be able to just have a little bit more space would be wonderful. And then after school and, times they're not programming, it's an open play area. So this would just be a much better flow.
And then this is an area back as if I'm standing back towards like the children's play area there and looking across to the library. And you can see just having some lower shelves
really helps there. And the desk has been moved from the center of the room over near to the entrance, which was also a request of the librarians.
Yes. So as soon as you come through the children's area, you will be greeted by somebody working at that desk. And we also have plans. When you look at the overall plan, you can see that the children's area entrance has been reconfigured a little bit. And I think through some bulk, like some features on the outside as you come down that ramp, it will help announce to people that the children's library is, you know, just around the corner. And we also have included money in the budget to punch some more holes into that so that people would, into the ramp wall. So you will be
Sure.
able to see into the children's area. So as you make that quick corner, you're aware that the children's library is right there. Okay, so one of the things that the next thing we did was we looked at how the library, how this could be broken up into a few different phases. So the first phase, that, you know, we feel really what would really need to go first is that central core. Because from the existing library, we really have like shifted all of the rooms. We've also moved the bathrooms into that central core area. So to get that area to work, we really have to do that area first. So unfortunately, it's not a question of, you know, do we do the main library or do we do the children's? It's sort of this very important area that is,
Between them.
Spine?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the spine of the building, but it's not something
Yeah.
that like people are like, oh, I can't wait to experience it. So that, I do think it'll make a lot of
Yeah.
important changes to that. So one of the things in this central core, it will hit, and I should have extended it out, I included both of the reception desks. So when you go through this, when you have this area, the rooms will be reconfigured, will hit both of the reception desks. Your ceilings will change out there, you'll have brand new bathrooms there. And it also includes, because this is kind of looking at what we would touch on the existing plan. You would also get those new windows leading out into the garden. So that would include the flooring changes for there, and we would work out, you know, kind of where stopping points are. But I did include in this budget the changes to the ceiling throughout most of the main space of the library, because that can get really messy going forward to have old ugly ceiling, I shouldn't say old ugly, but like older ceilings tied in with, nothing makes something look very old than when you tie it into something like brand new and with great new lighting and stuff like that. So we have some ceiling stuff in there. We don't have the main library lighting in there, but that would include that central core phase. And then the next phase would really be up to the library, if you wanted to do the children's library or the main library, either one at a time, or you could do them together at the same time. So
Our
you can
priority
see the
has been the
price.
children's library, as you know,
Yes.
that they have not really been updated in 30 years since
Yes.
the new library was built, so.
And when we were going through the budget, the children's library is, it's really just finishes. So the big expenses for the children's library would be the new windows and kind of like the little changes there to the story room. Those trees, you know, the acoustics around those trees, but they make a huge impact, but they actually, I think for how big the impact is overall, I don't think the trees, I think that it costs that much compared to like how much that it changes library. And the new front desk, you know, and some of the carpeting and stuff, you know, has an expense there, but the children's library phase, you can see is not as expensive as the other phases. The main library pricing is higher, mostly because it's just comes down to a square foot cost. You know, you have, it's 12,000 square feet compared to, I think the central core is about 3,000 and the children's library is about 4,000, so.
And we do need to mention that the costs that you're seeing there don't include everything. They don't include all of the shelving. They don't include furnishings like new tables and chairs and things like that.
Yes, they don't include that. They do include a 20% contingency, so that is anything that may be missed or like an oversight.
Or they raise the lumber prices, or steel
That
goes through
happens,
the
or
roof.
we
Yeah.
or-
open the
Right.
wall and it's
Yeah.
not what we expect to find in
Right,
there. and
exactly.
so-
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, all that kind of stuff should be, and this is very early estimate, we haven't really done more than these renderings, so it's
Right.
also based on not a lot of
Right,
information for
right.
them.
That's fair.
We also have an escalator in there of 2.5%. And so we've been working with all of our projects to kind of escalate out
Yeah.
how much things are gonna be in next year, to try to understand how much will be next year, in 2 years, and 5 years. And we have had people tell us prices like, it's gonna be 5% to 15%. So like,
Depending on the day.
Nobody knows.
nobody
How
really
the news is
knows
doing.
what it'll be.
Yeah.
Um,
But these costs here, so we came, the previous numbers we had for you guys was about $4.1 million.
Mhm.
This still adds up to that. We haven't like
Mhm.
saved any money from that. But this is also still looking at doing a project about this time next year. So the farther out you push things, those prices are gonna just move up. And if you pull this apart, then those other parts get expensive. We just kept it in those dollars because it gets confusing if we kind of talked about a sequence, because they're gonna have different costs just for the time part, and that's a decision you guys gonna make. So, you know, we didn't wanna muddy the waters with that, but if you push this, chunk of this farther out in the future, the costs are in theory gonna be continuing to go up, year after year, so.
I know Robin and I were asking for the phase bust out, so I appreciate
Yeah.
that and
Yeah.
seeing how this, yeah.
There's also a portion, the estimator included in here, a construction manager phase. And so that could be up to the library if you want a construction manager who would act as like a third-party person that would help manage the project and really make sure that the construction is staying on schedule and, they're more of an advocate for the library. We don't, some of our big schools do them, but
I'm not sure
I'm
that
not-
municipality typically.
No, I was
does
gonna
that.
say, I think we can probably do it with existing staff. I
yeah,
don't know that we need.
yeah.
Yeah, so that could be a potential savings right there, and you wouldn't.
Right.
Right, and so across the board, that was like almost $200,000.
Does Draw Collective do construction management?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yes,
Good.
yes,
That's what I wanna
and
know,
we have,
because actually the way this works is that architects are always representing the owner, always advocating for you. So having a third party is one of those industries that, in my opinion, created something for people that isn't always necessary, that if they can do construction management, then that's
yes.
more than adequate.
We have all done construction
Yeah.
management on our own projects. We
Yeah.
would not disappear.
Right.
But we also have on our staff a few construction managers that
Right.
we
Yeah,
have,
that's their primary.
that's their
purpose.
primary
job.
goal. And one of them was the facility manager at North Allegheny for a year, so he is really wonderful, but we would be
Yeah.
here and we're right down the road.
Not escape.
You can't hide if there's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very easy for us just to
Right.
walk up and,
Did you say this also did not include lighting?
I'm sorry, it does include lighting. The lighting, when I was looking at phase one, I included a lot of the ceiling for the main library, but I did not include the lighting for the main library in phase one. It is included in the pink phase, the main library phase.
Amy, if we follow this sequence with phase one being the central core,
Mhm.
this is the same question I asked at a few meetings back. Could the library remain open?
Yes, the library can remain open and we will have to consider how that is done very carefully and so what will happen most likely is they'll put up temporary partitions through that kind of along those gray lines. It would just be like plywood walls up there. So we would have to work with you to figure out where your new temporary reception desk gets moved to, how you're off, like, it's gonna be some pain, there will be some pain points, but we'll just have to communicate that.
Within that phase one, there would be little sub phases where they say like, tomorrow we're gonna switch over and the circ desk is gonna be here.
Right,
Because we gotta build a new one over here where it used to be, and like, there'll be little things like that. So it won't be perfect, but I think you can keep the library open and operational.
During COVID, we had to make so many adjustments. For a while, people were picking up holds down here in the hallway because we had to keep them separate from the people that were visiting the library by
Oh, geez.
appointment upstairs. It was a whole
Wow.
thing. So if we had to like take over the meeting rooms down here for operations for a while, we could do that. So we would make it work.
Yeah.
We all got very used to coming up with new ways to do things.
Never underestimate librarians'
That's
ability to
right.
think outside the box.
That's right.
and like for the restrooms, we would keep the old restrooms open
Yeah.
until the new restrooms are finished, like,
And the downstairs restrooms are not going to be affected
Right.
in this plan.
and we would work, with you on that and make sure that everyone, if we need to come up with any graphics or something for the community about changes that are happening and what to expect, we can definitely do that.
Or we could even have stuff in our document that work with it, tell the contractor, are there certain dates that it has to be quiet in here? Are there certain dates that you can't have changeover things? You can kind of lay all that stuff out just to make sure you have it covered.
Is that the final slide?
That's our final slide.
Okay. Any questions for Draw? We have them. Robin or Ann, do we want to give the full board an update on the money side of this? Is there anything to update on?
Well, I do have one kind of minor difficulty, I guess. We just found out today that we just had confirmed for us today that the Keystone grant after this cycle this year is going to an every other year cycle. So they're not going to have a Keystone grant cycle next year in 2026. So it would be for the 2027-28 year. So that could be an issue unless we just were able to save those funds to use on one of the future phases. But we were kind of counting on it for some of those, like the bathrooms and the ADA upgrades and things like that. So that could be a bit of an issue.
For the municipality, the way we would probably fund this is through a bond issue, and the good news is that the township is exceedingly well managed, I'm happy to say, they really are. I mean, I don't have anything to do with that, they just are really well done. And we are putting together a bond issue for this year, a smaller bond issue to pick up some things like the ice rink chiller and the new filtration system for the pool, all this sexy fun stuff, that kind of thing. But we have enough capacity to do a bigger bond issue next year, which is probably when we would expect to be wrapping in money for the library. You do have 3 years, I believe it is, don't anybody quote me on that. I think it's 3 years once the bond issue goes together to spend the money. So it's not as if like the minute you get the bond issue, you're spending it, but you do have a period of time that you have to spend it. So we are in very good shape. We do have also a lot of projects though competing for it. So it will be incumbent on this board to make sure you're rallying the public to want this and to move forward with it, because there's a lot of stuff that needs updating. There always is. There's always more wants than resources, no matter where.
So from what I understand, Robin or Ann, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a lot more money than we were originally planning on spending, but we want to go for all of it. We will be going to the municipality first for all of it, between general budgeting and also the bond issue Ann was just talking about. We're gonna make the case that, this is something it's time to do, that and the municipality should certainly help pay for. If that doesn't work, or if we don't, not that if that doesn't work, but if we don't get the full amount we want, we can then go to a capital fundraising campaign, basically to try to fill in the rest of it.
We do have fund balance. We have donated funds. The Friends of the Library have pledged to support us in this. So it's not going to be entirely on the municipality and on tax dollars. We'll be able to use a significant portion of it as far as donations go.
And then if we end up short there, we start looking at what we can cut out, but we don't wanna cut out, right, Ann? We wanna do it all.
Well, yeah, I think you should always ask your architect to solve the problems that the building presents, not to say, oh, hey, I've got $100,000, fix this. You should say, here's my house or wherever my building is. Tell me what I need to do to make this really work for me. You know, architects are about how the building functions. It's not all bells and whistles. I mean, that's fun. And like the trees are great, but they're also acoustic. And if you've ever been in the library with screaming children, you might appreciate it. So, I mean, the art of architecture is marrying the form with the beauty or the fun stuff, but don't forget the form. I mean, this is what they're correcting are things that are real issues in the library. The change over time of kids after school is huge, and they're very noisy. You know, they're junior high students, they're like raging hormones running through the library at all times, you know, so you really need to think about what we can do to make it a better, more welcoming for everyone, not just, you know.
How
and
much,
that's what they accomplish.
how much were we hoping / thinking we were gonna get from that Keystone grant that we now are not, at least next
Well,
year?
it would just depend on the timing and how we manage to phase this and everything. So I think we can still use it at some point, but,
Okay.
the max amount currently is $750,000. None of those are federal funds. It is a state level grant. So it should not be affected by anything that's happening at the federal level. That said, who knows? But as far as we know, it's going to continue as it is. But as I said, they are planning to move to every other year.
So we could potentially still apply and put it toward this project, it would just be.
Yeah, so maybe we put it towards the children's phase or something like that. The point of this, or the way the Keystone grant is, you kind of have to have your plan shovel ready, and then you get they approve what they're going to give you, and then you have a certain window that you have to complete the work in, and it's like 18 months long. So it's kind of like a hurry up and wait, and then, you know, it's very specific.
Do you think it reduces the possibility of us getting one when we were originally, I thought we had a strong grant opportunity when it was gonna be the ADA compliance and everything?
They're much more likely to fund things that are ADA, that are structural, that are kind of integral or essential. So the more cosmetic stuff, we would just have to make a good case for things, and, you know, and some of it depends on what other libraries are, you know, because we're competing against other libraries for these funds. So they're gonna give more money to libraries with a greater need, with greater, you know, with projects that are helping them become compliant, that kind of thing.
So your current bathrooms are not accessible,
No,
but, I have to look, I think your the reception desk is
think so.
accessible, but I was
yes,
trying to
it
think,
is.
like, we could say,
Yeah,
like,
where
if
can
we,
make the
if
point?
we could make the,
Uh-huh.
reference desk to be like, not just accessible like ADA, but more universal,
Yeah.
accessible to all folks.
Mhm.
And so that it's just one thing, I was trying to, when I was reading through the grant, trying to think of things that would kind of loop into that.
And I've never fully understood what you really need to have at the time of grant application. I know they say shovel ready, but we've done a lot of like RCAP projects and things that they say that, but then you go into a 6-month like business plan kind of thing, there's plenty of time for us to get, you know, so
Yeah,
I don't really, so if it's something where we can kind of dress up the plans we have and point at things
I
and
think
say,
you can do,
this
it's
is an
kind of
accessible
like,
restroom, you know, if that was
Right.
enough, then we already have it. You
from
know,
what
it's
I
just
remember from the last time we did this was like 2019, we needed like letters of some support from people like Representative Miller, Keith McGill. We needed like really good estimates from qualified, you know, contractors and different people to give like really accurate estimates as to the costs. And I can't remember how detailed the plans, but we weren't doing anything like this.
Mhm.
So it's, it was like replacing our HVAC system, replacing the carpeting on the staircase with that rubber stuff they've got on there now, things like that.
So we've met with Keith McGill, our municipal manager. It's on his radar. Draw has now fully updated the board. What's our next step?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I'm not sure.
Take it to the commission.
Take it to the commission.
Yeah,
That's what I would
we did present, it was last year, I think we presented to the commission, just the preliminary, like, hey, this is something we're looking at, and they were like, yeah, sure, sounds great, go nuts. You're using all donated money, you know, but now we're looking at going in a different direction, expanding it, so, we do need to go back and talk to them and just say, this is what we're looking at.
I know we had talked about putting together sort of a calendar, like this is when we have to work on a potential bond issue thing. This is when we have to push for being included in the budget, like that's sort
I
of.
think you ought to think about your marketing materials. You have some wonderful renderings, that you want to incorporate, because you really do need to do a capital campaign, I would think.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna find that's much more palatable to a community that has a lot of needs. If we go to the wider community and say, you know, what would you like to fund here?
Right, well, and at the
Find more
very
bricks.
least, I mean, it's not going to pay for the shelving, it's not gonna
No,
pay for the
right.
furnishings and
Right.
that kind of thing, so
Yeah.
we're gonna need to cover those
Come up with-
expenses.
Can we, get like a web page built? It's gonna be accessible from our website and being like, hey, this is what we're starting to work on and kind of launch online.
I think so, I mean, I don't know what, you know, permissions we'd need from you for using these renderings
No,
and
you
things
guys,
like
these
that.
are yours.
Okay.
You-
Just
yeah.
say, didn't we just cut them a giant
Yeah.
check?
But don't
We've been hoping you wanna share them,
Yeah.
because we wanna share them,
Yeah.
but we
Uh-huh.
just have been
Uh-huh.
not, you know.
Right, well, it's all been so preliminary for so long.
I'm a real stickler on this point of making sure Draw Collective's name is on the drawing.
Sure.
So
We
they're in the
appreciate that.
website. No problem. That's like always been one of my biggest bugaboos. Artist rendering, I'm like,
Yeah.
stop it, it's an architect. So, yeah, it's
If,
really important.
who puts together a capital campaign? Board, staff, everybody, you, who works on that?
I mean, yes. Marina Nielsen is our kind of point person for fundraising.
Good.
That said, she's retiring next June, is her
Oh,
plan.
no, do you want to go
So,
back to work?
yeah, so, right, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff that gets her really excited. She always is asking, like, what do I have to, you know, push during Love Your Library Month, during the annual appeal? Because
Cool.
people are more likely to give
Mhm.
funds towards something specific.
Mhm.
So, I mean, she'll be super excited when I tell her she can go
Can-
with this.
Can we start like a fund or a line item in the budget now where we start stashing extra money from friends or for wherever it comes from? Can we start earmarking money we bring in for
That's-
this?
Yeah, I mean, our 232, you know, that's our donations. And we can absolutely, I mean, encumber some of the unencumbered funds we have, if that's what you wanna do. We can talk to Allison about it. We do have a fundraising expert on our board now.
Don't
so-
say, it's not over summer. It is something, yeah.
Well, I do think though that, and I'm not saying this because I'm part of it, but I think the fundraising committee should be our point of contact, for lack of a better word.
Mhm. Yeah,
I also think, you know, just thinking about events, that the garden tour offers a really good
I was
opportunity
just
to,
thinking that too.
we have those pictures available.
We can kind of premiere them, that's in
Exactly,
June.
run them out,
So-
or not run them out, roll them out then, and,
Program.
you know, encourage people to make a donation.
future of the library
That's
is
it.
yours.
Is in your hands.
So
Your
then
wallets,
what we
actually.
need is like,
Well, maybe even just in conjunction with the garden tour, but before the actual day of the tour, when we've got all of the
Mhm.
baskets upstairs
Mhm.
and summer reading is June
Mhm.
9th. We're gonna have a huge amount of people in the building that day.
Mhm.
Yeah. Have
So
it out.
starting in June, I think
Yeah.
would be a
Yeah.
great
It's a good
time to
time to
start
do it.
displaying these.
Yep. Yep,
so let's get like high-res JPEGs from them if we don't have them
Or do you want
already.
prints? And we have a plotter, we could print them, whatever you guys want.
Both?
Oh, yes.
We're like in
Both?
Friends of the Library mode, so you can.
Absolutely. We don't have a big fancy printer. And
Yeah, like some
We
durable
want all the
printouts.
stuff.
Some durable printouts, and then also the files would be great.
The files
We
are-
can pass the files to Jeremy, just make them, like I said, simple JPEGs or
Yeah.
something, just so they're high res. And, we could get a web page up and we could prepare a physical presentation for the garden tour and whatnot.
Mhm.
I mean, we have a bunch of events coming up. I'm assuming we
Right,
can
yeah,
have it
like I
every.
said, summer is high traffic around here, so a lot of people will see these if we have them up and out, and we're promoting starting in late May, early June.
Mhm.
And
Well,
then,
I would think the Friends would be able to step up with, I mean, we're stepping up with a little pile of money, but I'd also think that we would be able to reach out to the community
Mhm.
and say, we are doing this, and we have this earmarked for that, and people could, who maybe wouldn't think about it, would think, I want to be part of that. So we have our board meeting the end of the month. I'd like to bring it up, but I'd like to, I would probably have to have help figuring out how do we structure that. People give us money, there's never any strings attached.
Mhm.
Which is
Whatever
a
they
good
give us,
thing.
we use however
Mhm.
it needs to be used.
It-
We would also say no strings attached here, but it would be definitely going into
Mhm.
a pocket that would hold that. And I don't know that we would need a new account. I don't think we need anything different, just a column that says
Right.
this money.
Yeah, what if you just said as a board, we are gonna pledge that for the next 2 years, 10%, 20%, 50%, whatever you wanna
Yeah.
decide,
Mhm.
Why
goes
would
towards
I-
the new library.
That's a good, and I hadn't even thought of that, but what I was thinking, in addition to figuring out, okay, we have this, do we wanna cut this much off and set it aside for that?
Mhm.
Of course, whatever.
it also might help,
But
like-
I'd like to be able to reach out to the community and
Yeah.
say, this is our immediate goal for this year, next year,
Mhm.
whatever it is, so that the community is aware that
Mhm.
let's make sure we're giving as much as the
Yeah,
library
yeah.
needs.
it also might help to have that in line, but, when we really start approaching the commission and municipality, even though we're hoping for a large chunk of from them, to be able to say, hey, look, we're trying to do our part here. We're
Mhm.
stashing money away, the Friends is involved, where
Mhm.
this is what we're doing, but,
And you can
we
already
need,
say, the Friends,
right.
this is already with the name
Right.
on it.
Right.
And in addition to, or, dot, and over here, because, my opinion of the community is they will definitely support this.
Indeed.
And,
Indeed.
people call me, not as often as they once did, and say, I have this, how can I get it there? I'm in charge of this, how can I get it to
Mhm.
you?
Mhm.
I think I only had one or two last year. The times that, we used to get those kind of calls all the time. COVID came, the world changed, everything is different now too. But I think if people hear that we're doing this actively,
Mhm.
it might prompt that thought. So I would,
Well, and libraries, every place is special, so I don't wanna use that word sort of in an inappropriate manner, but a library is sort of the central core of a community.
for sure,
I mean, yeah, we think of schools, but we think of schools of, okay, the state is gonna fund that. Fair or not, that's sort of the presumption. But a library is a little different, it holds us, not a more valuable meaning, but like a more.
it's like the heart and soul.
It is,
Yeah.
it's like the heart and
It
soul of a community, and so I agree with what others have said, that yeah, hey, who knows, you may get lucky and somebody turns around and says, here's a $4,000 check or $4 million check.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
You and me
We all
both.
would.
But my point is, if we get $10 here, $10 here, $10 here, $10 here, you start adding up that money and, suddenly you've got a lot of zeros, that have been raised.
And I think too, we're in a time and space where people want to feel like they're doing something
Mhm.
about something. And this is an easy way to do that at home, right in your backyard of, we want to make sure books are still here and the arts are still here and creating that community space, I think. Like you said, even if it's, I can only give $10, but, well, 10 people with $10.
Well, our $15 members are every bit as important
Yeah.
as the man who gives us $600 twice a year.
There you go.
I swear to God, that is the way it
Yeah,
is.
that's the way it is.
And that's just the way it is.
I think what we probably ought to do in the interest of, not keeping these folks here
Right,
later than
yeah.
perhaps, it's like, they're like, we love you guys, but we want to
Let's
get
go.
home, right?
Come on.
It's dinner time,
We're
right?
gonna let them go before we get to the next.
But I wonder if maybe at minimum, the fundraising committee should have a separate conversation, after we talk, as a group tonight and consider a few ideas.
Well, so I was just gonna say, I have absolutely no problem letting fundraising committee be a point on this. It feels like it's an early awareness campaign to me. I'm not sure if we're in a full-on capital campaign yet, but certainly ramping up an awareness campaign.
Mhm.
So you guys should meet, talk to Robin, talk to Jeremy. We've kicked out some ideas tonight. And you
Sounds
can
good.
get
Yep.
working on all those things. Just keep me updated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Draw, you guys are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, let us know when we can help.
I really enjoyed the current look at that
Yes,
angle,
that was really
conceptual look at that
original.
angle.
And it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
When we saw those,
It is.
pictures, there were a few of us who looked around and went, that's the same library? The lighting alone makes it look
Yeah.
like a completely different building. So
I
really well done.
Yeah.
keep thinking from Castle Shannon there, how nice it'll be, especially
Yeah.
at night, when you look up, you'll be able to see those wood slats and those pendants dropping. There'll be like a nice, lantern kind of effect,
Yes.
especially when so many families are going to school across the street at
Mhm.
night for games, so we are really
So,
excited about
I
it.
think you're off the hook for a little while. Just get us those printouts in the file.
We will, and just call us up if you need us to
Yep.
talk to the commission or whatever,
Yeah,
wherever we can help. Let us know.
Thank you.
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you.
Enjoy the rest
Thank
of your
you.
night, huh?
That was awesome. That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Right.
Start all over.
Yeah.
Next on the agenda is Friends of the Library, and Susan, as you start, she might already know, but can you at least explain to Maura who you are and what Friends does?
Hi, Mara. Mara and I just met not too long ago, so we almost know each other. But I'm the president of the Friends Board, and our sole purpose is library support. It used to be, actually, it still is, the fundraising arm of the library. The library still has its own responsibility for fundraising, but we're out there, if somebody has a good idea, we try to implement it to increase what we do. In January, we get a wish list from the library director, and I think it was 60-some thousand this year, high end of that. We discuss it as a board. We never discuss it negatively. We always have maybe questions like, what exactly does this do? What does this? And we've always been able to support whatever it is they ask for. And that comes from 50% approximately membership, and the other 50 bookseller, online, both and here, and just general fundraising. If we can make $3,000, we're thrilled to death. If we can make 6,000, we're really thrilled. But I mean, we don't say, oh, this isn't enough. It's like, well, it's $20 more or 2,000 more than we had before. So that's what we do. And probably if there's anything else that this library would say, I think we might, or can I talk about chairs? I mean,
Lovely, lovely
oh my
chairs.
word, and our volunteers who are so happy to volunteer and will do anything, took me aside and said,
I know.
these chairs are so embarrassing. I said, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to sit on them. I'm embarrassed to have. And these people drag them down the hall because we have a person who used to volunteer here a lot, but she no longer is able, doesn't function that way. So now we have 2 volunteers who actually work, and the other one just is there happily. So to accommodate that, we drag one of these down the hall every week. And so it was, so I said, I think I said to Rob, I think it was Rob, and I said it to, like, can we do anything about the chairs? And Jeremy's doing the research on it, and as soon as anybody gives us a number.
These chairs they were a good investment. They have been
Oh, they're
reupholstered at one
Yeah,
point, so
yeah.
they've been, I mean, I have no idea. I've been here almost 10 years and the reupholstering predates me, so they've definitely, we've gotten our money's worth out of them, but they are heavy, they're hard to move.
I think Jeremy's looking for something similar
Something
to
more
what we
like
have upstairs.
up in the learning
maybe.
lab, yeah, like the
Yeah, where
green,
they're-
like the plastic, lightweight, easily stackable, easy to
Mhm.
clean.
So, but like I said, even if it's a thought, we approach it as though, not can we, but let's move, yeah, let's get that moving. So, that's primarily what we do here on the Friends side.
Okay,
Great. Yeah.
and your update from this month?
So, yes, speaking of, a couple of things. We do have a plant sale coming up, and the pre-order is from April 1st through the 30th. You can do it online. We have a Shopify account. So it'll be Mount Lebanon Bookseller, my Shopify. And then we still have a lot of people who like paper order forms, so.
I have a copy of the paper form if
Yeah.
anyone wants to look
I
at it
was
or
going to
take
say, I
it.
can, yeah, if you go this route, you can see actually what they look like, et cetera, et cetera. If you go online, same pictures, you'll see them there as well. The plant sale industry this year we've had to be a little bit more creative than usual. Farmers are still working very hard, but they don't have all the resources they had maybe last year. So, some of the things, we will have some things the day of the sale that are not listed, and that will be herbs, hanging baskets. But there's a whole bunch of things in here, so, feel free to go online, take a look at these. The sale date is May 10th. We open at 10. We close at 1:30. We're still here at 2, picking things, moving things
We will
around.
need volunteers to help us set up and tear
Yes.
down that day, and I know several of you come every year and help. We started about 8:30, setting up tents and
8:30 in the
tables.
morning, yeah, on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's, so
It's
if you-
almost always rainy and cold. We'll have a
So
beautiful
we
week
could
the
have had
week
it today,
before
in
and the
other
week
words.
after.
New tents this year, though, it's gonna be easier, right?
Sure.
Presumably.
We'll have a hurricane, just to test them.
Don't.
We're also gonna have- We have birdhouses that are handmade
Mhm.
by
Fun.
a woodworker in this community. We pay for the materials. He does not want us to pay him. And then we have people who are actual artists as well as volunteer crafty types who paint them, and they're lovely. So we'll have those for sale. Mary Caesar, who's a ceramist artist, she's
Folk artist.
donating some of her things. So it really is a fun day, and you will see a lot of
Mhm.
neighbors.
Mhm.
The garden tour. Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was on my screen.
When you do the garden tour, when the community does the garden tour, the people whose gardens are on tour will be cleaning up their yards now. So they donate perennials.
Oh, nice.
So we
Yeah.
have a table of perennials, and, they'll grow because they're growing somewhere in this community. I think we sell them between $1 and maybe $5. And one year somebody gave us,
Yeah, we get special things now and then.
yeah, and that was a bit more, but it's, yeah, so that's coming up. I would say, look online, it's quick and easy. But we have this available at the desk. And then, something else, not friends related necessarily, but I have a sister who lives in Southern Maryland. I'm going to visit her sometime in May. And, she's in a delicate health, but we get to talk every now and then, and she's a retired library director. But now she's getting help, but she's still friends with all the library people, so I've been sending her information about Sanctuary, the book Sanctuary.
Oh, nice.
So, yes, it keeps everybody engaged.
Mm-hmm.
But she said to me when we talked last week, she said, well, I talked to her best friend Joni, who's still a senior person in the library system, and tell them about what this group has
Nice.
done. So
Very wonderful.
I will be wearing my t-shirt. Yeah, but to me, it's like taking the wonderfulness of this group
Yes.
and sharing it with another wonderful group and giving them, I know they're going to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long, did you say you worked on this for about a year? You had the idea a
It's,
year
we
ago?
started talking about it, like,
Probably 3 years ago,
it's
but
been,
yeah.
it's been a while, yeah.
But this group sounds, well, from what my sister said, she said she's shared the information with Joni and Joni's interested, so.
Very
They'll make. Yeah, I think so. So that's, I think, all I have unless I'm forgetting something.
Thank you. Just to reiterate what Susan and Robin said for the plant sale, yeah, anybody that wants to help, it's appreciated. I am always there for setup. I am sometimes there for takedown. If you can't make both, you can come to one or the other, but
And then-
it is a lot of work.
Kristen and Marcia have helped with like taking money, and I think, would you?
Also,
100%.
the plants are amazing, and if you come late, those
Yeah.
clippings
really
from
good
you
bargains.
get really good bargains of what's left. We're
Or,
not taking any anymore because we just kill them all in our
But it's
house.
also the day before Mother's Day, so
Yeah.
last minute
Mhm.
presents. it's great.
Also-
I brought my mom a hanging basket, and it was like the best thing I.
if
ever
you
saw.
come early, like I do, like I sneak my wife in like 15 minutes early, so
You
she
get the
gets her
first
pick.
early pick,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So come early and come late.
When I
Sounds like
order, I
motivation.
always ask.
That's insider selling.
It really is,
They
but
are
hey,
amazing.
I didn't say I wasn't corruptible.
This is all being recorded.
Oh, Lord.
I've been.
The Mount Lebanon Library Board is looking for a new president today.
Here's how to love it. We haven't voted yet.
That's true. Hey, thank you, Susan. Comments from commission liaison, we will turn it over to Ann.
Okay, let's see, what can I tell you that's so exciting, you can hardly stand it, I know. So let's see, traffic calming continues, we're thinking about a new traffic calming ordinance. Traffic calming is very simply putting barriers in the road to slow people down, and it can be any number of different things. Circles, it can be bumps, it can be, rumble strips, it can be anything to try to slow traffic down. So that continues. We just got the bids today for the sidewalks on the whole length of Woodland. I don't know what the bid is yet, but I'm gonna hope comes in under budget or at least at budget, so we can go forward with that. We are considering a bond issue for this year. Some of the things that we're gonna be funding, if we do a bond issue, is the new filtration system for the pool. Also fixing the floor of the pool. This is interesting to me. You'll probably all wanna stone me to death by the time I'm done. But it has an aluminum floor, which is the only one in the state that has this. It was put in like 25 years ago. I mean, I can't even point fingers as to who's to blame for that decision, because you try new things, right?
Sure.
But what happens is it heaves and gets bumps. And so we have these little like RoboCop vacuums that go along the floor of the pool to keep it clean. And they can't work when there are bumps because they get stuck on the bumps. So you have to go in and cut it out and then lower it, patch it, all this stuff that has to be done. So we would be fixing the floor of the pool yet again. That's an ongoing problem to do, but decisions are decisions. Ice rink chiller would be also paid for with this. We've had huge problems with our chiller. lighting for some of the fields would be paid for. Those are just some of the fun high points of what's in a bond issue. Very exciting. This is also the time of the year when the commission decides what to do with unassigned funds. And I'm gonna explain this to you as citizens, because I think it's a really important thing. So when a municipality budgets for their revenue and their expenses, they always have an amount in there that you would probably in your household budget call your reserves, right? So we always have an unassigned fund balance, which is basically reserves. You can't have very much because it's not, I mean, it's municipality. You're supposed to spend what you get. You're not supposed to keep, pulling in tons of money and charging your taxpayers. That would really be bad. So, but you have to have some. The recommended amount is to not go below 15% of your overall operating budget. So ours right now is about, I think, 17%, somewhere close to that. And what happens is after 2024, when we get all the revenue in and we've had all the expenses, then we know if maybe we're gonna have some extra unassigned funds. And every year, typically we have some. I mean, it's not huge amounts, but it's sometimes enough. I'll give you a good example, the sidewalks on Woodland. The people on Woodland had been bugging us about sidewalks for a long, long time. And we had enough in the budget to do about half the road. When the unassigned funds came through for that year, we had enough to do the other half. So we said, so that's the kind of thing that you can do with it. It's kind of, but just, you should, as citizens, keep your eye on those things because that's kind of a savings account. And that's not really a fair way to say it because we're not supposed to say it, but that kind of thing, okay? Makes sense? Other than that, I can't think of anything. We have a new fire chief. Everything else is pretty stable and it's the tree trimmers are out right now. Right now, what they're doing is the crews are out trimming trees that they've trimmed trees. I'm sorry, they trimmed the trees in the winter. Now they're taking down the trees that are dead. These are street trees, our street trees. And later in the summer, they will not blow up, okay, wrong word. Grind out the stumps. And then in the fall, they will plant new street trees for wherever they need to be. So that's the schedule on that. And, street cleaning has started. So for the next 3 weeks, please do not park on the street if you want your street cleaned. That's it. Can't think of anything else.
Since you brought up trees, can I go completely off topic and ask you a question?
Of course, I get this all the time. Go ahead.
I have a street tree in front of my house and it's like this over the road. It's completely crooked. It's also, we have utility lines that go through my tree, like cable lines and electric lines. So I don't think the municipality cuts it. I think one of the utilities
Oh,
cuts
yeah,
it.
that's exactly right.
Typically who we
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
We're always concerned about it because it doesn't get cut at the level that the ones that are unimpeded by utility lines are. My neighbor across the street is terrified of this tree because if it ever uproots, it's her house that's in trouble since it's leaning away from mine.
And where do you
Catalpa.
live?
Catalpa.
Oh,
Sunset
call
Hills.
up Grella. Give him a,
Is that what we would do? Like,
Yeah, heck
or
yeah.
my
I'd
neighbor would
send him
do?
an email and just say that and tell
I
you.
mean, I've
what
given
you
Grilla earfuls before, so
Of
he's probably
course.
used to
Yeah,
it,
we expect that. That's part of the
Um,
job. No, I would just, she can report it to Public Works, but Grella will get her an instant answer as to where it is on the schedule.
Like I said, I'm not just asking for me, but especially my neighbors on
it's
the other
fine.
side of the
But
street are
listen,
concerned.
I had a neighbor call about one, I don't know how long ago it was. They were very concerned about it. We sent a crew out that day and they were like, oh my God, this is really dangerous. And it came down within the next couple of days. The crews are out all the time, but they're not on every street every single day. And sometimes they're busy doing other things, so they're not necessarily paying attention to your tree. So you report it, yeah, that's,
Okay.
we want eyes on
Well,
those.
one thing, they have, this is gonna sound kind of bizarre, but they have very sophisticated tree software. Where
Yes,
they have record of every tree in the municipality, basically.
Yes,
So
we do.
they will update the software to reflect what you tell them about the trees on your
tree,
street.
yes, so that they can make sure that people are programmed in to do it.
Alright.
We also know where all the sewers are. And the sidewalks.
thank you for
And the
answering
property
my,
lines.
thank you for answering my completely non-library related
It's
question.
called GIS.
Okay, any
Sorry.
questions for Ann? Other questions?
No.
Okay, thank you, Ann.
Sure.
My report, first of all, I wanted to thank everyone who showed up at the various events we've had over the last few weeks. I was at the Book Sanctuary announcement event. I know some of you showed up. Thank you for that. I was not at the staff luncheon, but I understand some of you showed up there, so thank you for that. Am I missing anything? I feel like there's people, we're at the library all the time now, but
It's been a busy.
just if you came to anything outside this board meeting, Robin and I appreciate it and thank you.
Very much, yes.
Consideration to confirm 2025 slate of officers. So we just need to vote to make this official tonight, correct?
Mhm.
So we need a motion to confirm me as president, Anthony as vice president, Holiday as secretary, and Pete as treasurer. Can I get this was discussed at our last meeting and already sorted out. We just need to make it official. So can I get a motion? Holiday moves. Can I get a second?
A second.
Suzanne seconds. Everybody in favor of those 4 slate of officers for the next calendar, or not calendar year, our year, 12 months, please say aye. Aye. Any nays? Look at that, no nays on me being president, despite the fact that, okay, that's approved.
You're gonna work with Debbie for that one.
Which means I officially get to appoint board committee members, which we've basically already done. Suzanne is moving to governance committee. She's already attended her first meeting. We didn't send you running away screaming yet, did you? We were. And I've already
It's
talked.
always the second meeting.
And I've already talked to Maura, who knows she's going on fundraising and is more than comfortable with that. So Anthony, you got her. Anthony is in charge of our fundraising committee, so he will be
Watch
in
out.
touch.
Possibly go wrong.
I don't know, though, she's also really good at math, so there is that treasury position when that
Pete's
comes up.
got it though.
When-
Well,
Comes up
if
next year.
12 months gets up, Pete's pulling his hair out. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then we have consideration to adopt the 2024 annual report, which was passed out. Do you need to
Well,
tell
Mara
us
has
anything?
already found on the first page, even though
Oh,
we
boy.
proofread it 5 times, she already found an error. So barring the error,
What's the error? I want to know the
the
error.
pumpkin parch parade rather than the pumpkin patch
Mm.
parade.
Oh, dear.
In the photo caption, so barring that or any other minor typographical errors, I just need your formal approval on this for our bylaws before I can release it to the public, share it on the website. They've been working as they work on all of our PDFs and things that we share on the website to make it readable by an ADA reader. Something this image heavy, it's very difficult, so they've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make it accessible. But I think they did a beautiful job. MA lays it out and visually I think it's just great.
I make a motion that we don't delay approving, even if other typos are inadvertently found. So,
We'll do one more run through, before we put it on the website, et cetera, but, yeah, I think you could probably make a motion.
I'll second it.
We have a first, we have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? That
That's
is,
bound and determined, find another error.
no, I'm just looking. Basically, just wanted to make sure my name was in the back, and there it is, so.
Do I need to do some conflict resolution?
Just spent too much time with it.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Excellent insight.
That's
This is
not the
good.
truth. We don't spend enough time.
Oh, no.
Okay, and I will turn it over to Robin for the director's report.
There's nothing going on.
Okay.
The last couple of weeks have been just a whirlwind of adventure here at the library. I've been updating the progress report I gave you about the Book Sanctuary Initiative. I think there's enough for everyone. If not, I have an extra one here. Maura doesn't have one, so I just printed out the whole thing. But I added in purple what I've done since the last meeting. So it's mostly promotional stuff on pages 2 and 3. Talked to Jason Jedlinski. I was down at WQED today judging the writers contest, and he said that he was at a meeting of important CEOs and directors of the local museums and things like that, and he shared the news there.
Who's
So
that?
they were all excited.
Who was that?
Jason Jedlinski, he's CEO of WQED.
Oh, okay.
And I've talked to John Delano, who's been sharing it on his Facebook. I don't know if any of you are friends with him on Facebook, but he made a post recently about
His mother and the
his
library.
mother and getting the books from what military library was it that was banning books? He asked them to just
Library.
send all the books
Oh,
here.
okay.
That
Yeah,
was-
library, yeah.
That was something. And then, yeah, we've been sharing it. It's been shared widely on social media. I was on Lisa Smith's KDKA show this weekend, Intersections. I talked to Brad Hunt yesterday of the Observer Report, from the Observer Reporter, so I think there's gonna be something in the Almanac this week. And I wrote an article for the Friends of the Library newsletter.
Great.
So a lot going on with all of that.
Excuse me for interrupting, I just had, didn't we talk about possibly doing, or reaching out to the Mount Lebanon magazine as well?
Yeah, they are
Or
going
they
to
know
be
better.
running something in their May issue.
Okay,
So, yeah,
good.
that's been.
done already.
I was gonna say, I gave him a quote, so.
Yes, yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yeah, that'll be.
I heard he got
in
struck.
May.
Kidding.
Robin already told me it might get edited, you may want to shorten, it. I'm like, no, that's my quote. They can make it.
You may not
Yeah.
edit this.
So, yeah, so that's all. It's been great so far. The response has been completely positive, and I feel like I'm jinxing myself every time I say that, but I've heard a lot of wonderful things. One of my staff members texted me last night and said, let's see, where is it?
I went through and gave every positive Facebook comment a little heart.
Oh,
Where I say, yeah, my
That was
duty,
nice.
maker, yeah,
Really.
because there were like 30 of them. And
So Eric texted me, two things. One, tonight a woman came up to me at my program and showed me the book sanctuary flyer she took from upstairs. She thanked me and said, there's not a lot to feel good about these days, but this is something. Two, apparently yesterday at the Unitarian Church, someone submitted the fact that we are a book sanctuary to the joys section of the service, and the whole congregation applauded when the minister read it.
That's
Who-
really
who does this
nice.
come from?
Very nice.
Eric,
So
my
great.
brother, he's doing a fellow next door, or he was.
Very
He's our
nice.
adult programming librarian. But yeah, we've been hearing a lot of great comments like that all week long, so it's really heartwarming. I got a really nice email from a patron thanking us. We got a donation in the name of the book sanctuary.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It's been nothing but positive on my side either. I'm like, I told Robin, I'm Facebook friends with a branch manager at one of the Columbus libraries, and he reached out and it's like, it's so awesome. That's what you did. I went to lunch with a friend of mine today and he was like, hey, I saw half of you on Facebook yesterday. I said, yeah. And he said, he's like, that's pretty cool what you guys did. So it's been all positive on my end.
Good. Yep. So yes, that's been great. It's been very uplifting for everybody. And we've sold 11 t-shirts so far, which I think is great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Turn a profit on those or is it?
No,
cost
not really,
flat?
not much.
Yeah.
We go through Commonwealth Press and, we don't do a big markup
Yeah.
on them, so.
Right.
Okay,
To get the word out.
I'm not saying we should turn a profit. I was just asking.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you get the word
yeah,
out.
I do say that all proceeds come back to the
Yeah,
library.
okay.
Yeah.
For purchasing them, so. We have, a job posting just closed for a part-time children's librarian. I think I told you last month that our senior children's librarian, Connie Matthews, is retiring. Her last day is going to be June 9th, summer reading, which I hope you will all be here that day. So you can say your farewells to her, but we have about 10 candidates. We're going to interview about half of those and hopefully come up with a great new addition to our children's library and have them in place before summer reading begins.
Did you say it was a full-time or part-time?
Part-time,
Okay.
yeah. That's why we only have 10 qualified
Okay.
candidates, because it's part-time. If you're getting a master's degree, you want a full-time job and benefits, I mean.
Of course.
So the Regional Asset District, they are advertising their summer staycation 2025 with the RAD Pass. If you go to radpass.org, you can use your Allegheny County Library card, which includes our Black Mountain Lebanon library cards. to get free or reduced cost entrance to RAD assets. And they are planning to go beyond summer and make this a year-round program.
Oh,
So
nice.
we're really
That's
excited about
very
that.
nice.
Yes, because a lot of the, like the ballet and things
Yeah.
like that are primarily in the fall and winter, so.
Yeah,
Um,
wow.
Yes.
Nutcracker tickets cheap. Yeah, it was
I
very
did
cheap.
say on my director's report, advocacy efforts and needs, thank you to all of you who contacted Rep. Deluzio's office for signing that letter asking to restore the Institute for Museum and Library Services at the federal level. If you have not done so, please just email or call him and say thank you for supporting libraries. The acting secretary of the Pennsylvania Department of Education, Carrie Rowe, has been meeting at the federal level and has pledged to all of the Department of Education assets, which includes the libraries in Pennsylvania, that she will communicate info about the IMLS impacts. Still no one really knows what's going on, but I will keep you all posted, and if there is any kind of call to action as far as writing letters, contacting people, I will let you know. But thank you for all you've done so far. It's been very much appreciated.
Who's she meeting with?
Just like legislators and people on the federal level.
Thank you.
There have been a lot of meetings. Librarians have been doing a lot of meetings lately, so
Is that it?
that's all I have for my report.
Thank you, Robin. We will move on to committee reports. Fundraising is first up. Anthony.
Good start, but we definitely need more volunteers to help out at the now 8 gardens.
Oh, wow.
8. As of, wait, let me back up. I want to say 6 weeks ago, we thought we had 6, and then we had 7. And Marina, who was a nonstop dynamo, I don't know if we're gonna allow her to retire.
I'm not sure either. Yeah, it's gonna be rough.
Now tells me we're, well, not now tells me, told me a few weeks ago, we're up to 8. Which is great because that's more people and more gardens and more to celebrate. And that also means more people are needed for volunteers.
yeah.
So, if you can volunteer, please do. If you can strong arm in a nice way, friends to volunteer as well, just have them shoot me an email and I'll get them on the grid. There are, I'm always thrilled when we get repeat volunteers, and when I sent my email out 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, the number of people who wrote back to say, pencil me in, same slot, and whatever, so. And I think a lot of you know what makes this really fun from my end in terms of scheduling it is the number of people who, like you 3 are best friends, you've done this for 10 years, you're signing up again. It's really great to see. So, but I do need more volunteers for the 3 time slots. And then Marina also sent me a note, and I'll just give you some of the quick summary. Individual donations for the garden tour are going gangbusters. My words, not hers, but gangbusters. The raffle basket donations are also really going well. The one area where she is seeing some challenges is the printed program book. And she does mention in her note that to some extent, we began to see this issue during the COVID years, especially the first couple of them. But she did ask if all of us would please solicit businesses in Mount Lebanon to.
I have more letters if anybody
Yes,
needs another
yes.
letter, and then also
And-
raffle basket solicitation letters. I'm gonna pass those around.
Yes, and she also said that she is going to try to call on previous program book advertisers to see if they will want to pony up again. The reality is that not that a printed program book is a dinosaur, but the
Get there.
but yeah,
Really is.
but the commitment to doing something online, appears to be interesting. Which, and again, I'm just planting this idea. I don't want us to discuss it in any context immediately, because obviously for this calendar year, we're set. But would we want to consider, for lack of a better phrase, sort of an electronic program book for subsequent years?
When we do
Any-
that to some extent with the virtual garden tour,
Right,
we
right.
intersperse with ads from our sponsors.
Right, and so, but perhaps, and again, I'm not advocating for this, just saying, do we want to consider maybe the need to do away with the program book in subsequent years? Especially if we see that the challenges financially associated with that are perhaps a little much. One quick thought, before I forget it, I should have mentioned it earlier, remind anybody who volunteers to help out at the garden tour that one of the perks is that they get a ticket that allows them to see all of the gardens that day free. So it is a little treat that has been in place, I don't know how many years, but is obviously something that is going really well, so.
Anthony, did you want to tell Maura about the the board's raffle basket?
Do I have to? No, what we do each year is, put together we typically do it themed, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But we typically put together a raffle basket as well that is specifically from the board. Bob, help me out because I'm drawing a blank. It's been a long day and I'm tired, but last year we
did gardening.
it was
Yeah.
gardening, that was
Oh, I
it.
thought it was
Pamper
spa, pamper,
yourself.
yeah.
Yes,
that's what
pamper
it was.
yourself.
I think
Yeah.
the year before.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we generally try to agree on a theme. That doesn't mean that that's the only,
Right.
contribution you're allowed to, you general, not you particular, that you are allowed to make. So a lot of exciting time, a lot of good stuff happening, regarding, the garden tour, which is now
35?
7 weeks
Oh,
away.
yeah, it's not.
It's coming up like a freight train, June
Yeah.
the 22nd, yeah, June the 22nd.
So Holiday and I did talk about the basket when we were here for
Mhm.
the book sanctuary thing, and Bob was there as well, but then Holiday and I continued to talk as, after that. So I think one of the two, you said, if there's some way we could tie in the book sanctuary, and then we got into the sort of dark path for a minute. But we looked back, and one of the signs up there with the book sanctuary is that welcome sign and all the different nationalities. So
Mhm.
I was thinking you could sort of play off that maybe with different nationalities, like, we've got all these wonderful restaurants, markets and things,
Excellent. Yeah.
market, like
Yeah.
not just restaurants, but places to go and buy
Absolutely.
groceries. So maybe something about welcome,
Sure,
sign
sure.
with a slant like that. That's my first comment. My second question is, Holiday and I also did talk about the raffles and going around soliciting businesses and things. And we were like, well, do we want to go together, divide and conquer? But how do we make sure that if multiple board members are going out, that we're not going to the same organization?
In the
If it's just
past,
Holiday and I, that's easy
Yeah.
to coordinate, but.
in the past, it's usually been like, I remember when Corey Flynn was on, for example, Commissioner Flynn's wife, she was on the board and she would send an email saying, hey, I'm going to hit up Washington Road this week. So, you don't need to worry
Right.
about that one.
Right.
Or I'm going to hit the Beverly Road shops or whatever. So you can just send an email out or a text, like, I don't know how we don't do a whole lot of discussion in between meetings because we're careful not to,
Mhm.
contravene the sunshine laws.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you're not making like decisions that you need to vote on, like just making an announcement like that is fine.
Okay. And then my third question is, Marina had mentioned in the email to the two of us about the program dollars going down.
Mhm.
Do we know like what percentage of the revenue for the garden event comes from program versus sponsorships versus?
The sponsorships used to be a big part of the money, the funding, but
Hey,
Hey,
don't worry about it, no problem, good to have you.
we elected you.
Does
Yeah,
the
but-
pro? is
Yeah,
the
you're
program-
officially the treasurer.
Loser?
In
Congratulations.
absentia, right?
Is the program a cost loser? Is it,
I mean, we don't break out costs to the point where I can even very clearly tell you that.
okay,
I think it's still making a profit. It's
Okay.
just nowhere near what it was in the
Alright.
past. And right now, she only has a handful of sponsors
Mhm.
that are
When you say-
advertising, so.
okay, that are out there. So that's the list that I would like to have, is the people that, so we're not hitting them up, but that we're
Mhm.
perhaps going to them
Mhm.
and buying something from them is a thanks to put in our basket.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Um,
If you wanna talk to Marina, or if you guys wanna set a meeting for in the next few weeks, and then we can talk to Marina beforehand and she can get the information.
I have a question. As far as sort of the fundraising aspect of this and going to the businesses and everything, is this still fully, like sort of paper in hand, physically hit up the businesses? None of it is done through email or library's
Marina
Facebook?
solicits through email.
she does?
Yeah, She
Okay.
has PDFs
Our
of
work,
these.
I meant our work is
Okay.
Yeah.
almost exclusively through that form.
I go
Yeah.
there and
But
I
if you
stand
want-
there and I make
if
them
you want,
uncomfortable.
like,
and say,
If you want PDF with that, Marina can
I love
provide
it.
it.
Yeah, it's, what made me think of it is because when I joined the Mount Lebanon Girls Softball Association and got on their board, we were still doing sponsorships,
Mhm.
paper, door to door.
Mhm.
And I got in and became secretary, was in charge, and I'm just like, I'm not doing this anymore. We live in whatever year it was, 2018 or whatever. We switched to pretty much an all email system. We would promote it through like the website constantly. Every week, something would go out on our Facebook page and our Instagram page.
And that's what I'm
We're
thinking
looking for
about,
sponsors.
all of this,
And,
moving it electronically.
Yeah, and then, so it almost all went digitally. Now, there was some debate, and I don't think it ever was fully answered about whether that helped or hurt as far as getting new sponsors. I can tell you it immeasurably helped as far as keeping existing sponsors. It got locked into where people knew that email was coming every
Mhm.
January, February, and they would be right back up and signed up to sponsor a team
Mhm.
next year. So I'm not saying it's a better system for new sponsors, since I don't have evidence of that, but I can tell you it was a better system for keeping people.
Well, and I
So-
think it also, I mean, on the most basic of levels, it's less paper that Robin and her team have to print.
Yeah.
Or not print, but use. And sure, if somebody wanted something in paper, it'd be very easy to print, a copy or a set of paperwork. or something.
It's a little easier for softball because we have extensive databases. So everybody who had ever coached or every player, the parent of player who played would get an
Mhm.
email, are you
Mhm.
interested in sponsoring a team? And I'm not sure if there's an analogous, something that that doesn't quite copy over one to one for doing
Right,
something like
right.
this. But just holiday made me think of that because as far as keeping track of who's being hit up and who should know about this, it's definitely a lot harder when you have 7, 8, 10 people going door to door and nobody know who's doing what, as opposed if someone has an email database of every Mount Lebanon business who has donated in the past, even if it wasn't last year, who has shown interest.
Right.
It's pretty easy. Like, yeah, we emailed these 46 businesses.
I mean, that's
And
something
can
I'm
be
very happy to
carving
put
that up,
together.
Well, and Marina already, I know Marina has some records like that, so
Okay.
it's something you can.
So that's
absolutely talk to her.
something for
Yes.
maybe you to talk to
Yes.
Marina about and think about. I personally feel like door-to-door handouts is very old-fashioned, but I also know that, Holiday can go glare at them until they
Yeah.
sign, and sometimes that peer pressure does help, whereas an email, we can just instantly delete.
That's right.
So I get both sides.
But there's
Yeah.
no reason we couldn't think of, and again, I don't want us to hash all this out tonight, but email goes out on fill in the blank date. If somebody doesn't reply, maybe there's a second go around, and then it's, all right, we know, Bob's Diner, just using you, and I guess I shouldn't use that example because there's.
Bob's Diner actually
Yeah,
exists.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
It's not
so,
mine, but-
The Taylor Chalet.
There we
all
go.
right, is a regular contributor. If they don't respond to 2 emails,
Right.
then we can turn a holiday loose on. No.
And then they'll respond.
And then they'll
immediately next year.
respond. But my point is, I'd like us to move away from the paper world if we can. Because I also think it, however much we're able to go to places, it's still time consuming.
I would also just add that now these are all out of date because they all say 6 gardens instead of 8 also, which
It
online.
needs redone.
That's a good point.
Well,
Yeah.
what I'd like to say as a consumer, if I get an email saying all these things, and it's of any interest to me at all, and it says, if you're interested, press this button.
Mhm.
Yes, then
And
you
I
follow.
will respond,
Yes.
and then
So
I've signed
Exactly.
in,
Yes.
I've
Yes.
given you my money, I've done whatever you need
Mhm.
to do.
This,
And I think that's better than if I have a stack of mail and then it's like.
Exactly.
that's exactly right. For example, going back to softball, if you were a repeat sponsor, that's right. We already had all your
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
All you had to do was click the button, and say, I'm
Click here.
doing this
Apple
again.
Pay.
And
Yes.
yes,
It's like, yeah.
Apple Pay is like fake money. You put an Apple Pay at the
So-
bottom, I will give anybody.
there are
to
some
anyone.
pluses, there are some negatives,
Right
but
there.
definitely something to think about. and talk about.
Yes.
I'll remember
And
that if
maybe-
I run
and,
for
you know,
office.
maybe-
Yeah.
Maybe more for next year than this year, depending
I'll
on
be
where
your
you are in the
campaign manager.
process.
Yeah, I don't think
You're the
this year,
best.
Yeah.
I think this year, the plan, the proverbial, horse has left the barn. Let's
Right.
talk
Yeah.
about what we wanna do for next year.
Right, well, and with, like I said, the staff changes that may be coming,
Yes.
it would be good to have those things automated and ready to go. for the next
Exactly.
person.
Take pressure off your team as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is what I got.
Okay.
Here's the agenda for the governance committee, if that helps you with your report.
Sure. Thank you. The governance committee did. We told Kristen and Susan about. Governance committee did meet, last week. We welcomed Suzanne to our board. We are continuing to look at 5 different policies: confidentiality of library records policy, purpose and authority policy, library board and director duties policy, which I'm going to circle back to that one in a second, library director evaluation policy, and memberships policy. We are on track to be presenting some of you for comments, questions, and potential approval in May, correct? Actually, we have one of them that was basically done when we got to this meeting, and I think 2 more that are done now. The board and director duties policy is the one that's gonna be a lot of work. And in fact, we don't think we're gonna get a copy to you guys until later in the year in our second go round of policies. It's really outdated as far as what the board is responsible for and what the director is responsible for. What'd you tell us? That policy basically came at a time when director and board
previous-
were at odds and also trying to pull away from the city, and there was a lot going,
Administration
yeah.
Had different ideas
Yeah.
about how the library should be,
Yeah.
the library's relationship with the municipality.
This doesn't look like a mutinous board. I
No.
just-
I wouldn't go ask them for money to fix your library and then be mutants.
Not a good idea.
As I told,
It's a little bit of advice there.
as I told to Suzanne, it's the trickiest part of the governance board is when we write these policies. We can rewrite them in a way that's very easy right now because the board and the director and the staff and the municipality all get along right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
My
there,
strength.
so we could make them super easy, but the thing is we want to keep them strict enough in case
Of
there
course.
does get to be
Yes,
some
yes,
sort of
sure.
complication
Tell people
somewhere
this all
part
the
of the line.
time, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't write the policy for the people that
For
are
the
sitting.
people.
at the table
Correct.
right here.
So
You can't
that's
write
what we're
people
looking
that
at.
are each other's
For the
rights.
positions.
So not
Right.
only is that duty policy, which specifically spells out what the board is responsible for and does, and what the director and the staff is responsible for and does, not only is outdated, but we have decided that we are going to take a couple other policies, like including the director evaluation policy, eliminate them and instead fold that information into the duties policy.
Oh, smart.
So
Yeah.
we are actually going to be deleting, I think, Kristen, Suzanne,
The
two?
memberships, the
I think,
memberships.
yeah, I think we have
Just
2
all of that.
policies that are going away. And we are gonna recommend that this, like the evaluation policy is a whole page when we think it can be 2 sentences.
Mhm.
That stuff is going to be incorporated in the duties policy. So that's probably the one you guys will be the most interested in. Just be aware, we don't think you're getting that one in May.
I've
You're probably
emailed-
gonna get it in September or.
I've emailed Keith McGill and Phil Weiss, the legal counsel for the municipality, because I feel like they need to weigh in on the duties. And I also need to talk to the state library because we have some responsibilities to the state that the other municipal boards do not have.
Right.
So I want to get all of that information before we really start rewriting these. I have not heard back from Phil Weiss yet, so I'm not sure when that meeting's going to happen, but we are going to talk about those policies soon.
So these are the 5 we're looking over. If you want to read over those before you arrive to the May meeting, you may do that. Do we have these listed in Govenda or
They're in
somewhere
the
for the?
minutes.
Okay, they're in the minutes if you want to remind yourself what ones we're looking at. Although once we present them to the board, Robin typically has, like, we have the old policy, we have a red line policy showing you the changes, and then we have a final new version of policy.
But all the current policies are available
Um,
online, bottom of our website, there's a library policies, they're all there.
So, but things are progressing. We will have stuff to present in May. This is actually probably a good time to point out, there's about a 30% chance I will not be at the May meeting. We will see, but if I'm not, you get to run the show, and Kristen or Suzanne, you may have to present the policies. I'll keep you all up there. I haven't missed a meeting yet since I became president. There's at least a chance it's gonna happen that month. We'll see. But regardless, someone will be here presenting policies. Suzanne, Kristen, did I miss anything?
Nope.
Okay.
He gets reelected and takes the month off.
Well, I hope to not. I'm not going golfing and I hope to not miss. I just wanted to make everyone aware it's at least possible. Old business, library director evaluation. Here's the good news. Everybody turned in their evaluation.
Oh
I
my
thank you for that.
gosh.
I have all the
Yay.
information.
Good
Thank you
for
so
you
much for
guys.
meeting that April deadline I laid out. Here's the bad news. I haven't actually assembled it into the report yet because I haven't got the time. But Robin told me she wasn't gonna get mad as long as I had it in by the end of
I
April,
assume
so.
if I'm doing something you all
It-
don't
the-
like, you
the
will
sc-
tell me when it happens and not wait until my evaluation.
The scores are
so-
good. I'm gonna get it all assembled into the nice little report package and get it to Robin and the board by the end of the month. So thank you all for getting it into me by 12, let's say the 15th, 2 weeks ago. Thank you for that. But it's coming, it's coming.
I can't remember from last year, are we obligated to vote to approve that summary? I don't think we do, right?
I
don't-
think
I
the
don't remember-
bylaws
I
just
don't
say
think
that
we
you
did last
have
year.
to provide.
So this is, and this policy, which we're going to eliminate, or at least we hope the board will vote to eliminate, like, we don't follow it at all.
No.
It's completely, it's like the dates are messed up and I'm supposed to present it to the board without Robin here, and then the
It's a-
board is supposed to, it's like this huge
a
chain of
whole
events. And as Robin has pointed out, this isn't even her,
We don't.
it's something
enjoy
that we should do that she appreciates.
I
Mhm.
do.
But she also gets a review from the municipality. That's
Yes,
honestly her
yes.
more important
More,
review.
yeah.
So we want to keep doing it. But it's, the
Well-
policy just is completely out of
Agreed.
whack.
Agreed.
So
You should probably send your evaluation to Keith.
I
once
can
it's
do
all
that.
Completed, so
I-
that he can fold that in.
I may have done that
I
last
think
year.
I
don't know.
usually, I think I usually share it with.
Yeah, that would be a smart thing to do, especially if it's positive. You know,
Anyway, I apologize. It hasn't been compiled yet, but it will be soon. New business, National Library Week proclamation.
Yeah, so you all have a copy of the signed proclamation
Mhm.
that the municipality is kind enough to do for us every year. We did tweak they always send us a Word document so we can specialize it to our libraries, and I did add a whereas. Mount Lebanon Public Libraries Board of Trustees passed a resolution to become the first book sanctuary library in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, affirming their continued commitment to provide patrons with equitable access to information and confidential usage of library resources. So that was our addition to the National Library Week proclamation. It was signed, and then last week we got a nice shout out at the commission meeting, and they all posed for a picture with me that's been on social media, so that was lovely.
Yep.
So thank you. And I do have one more quick new business. Marina updated the list of board members. So this is all the contact
Oh, how
information for the
nice.
board members, your term, end dates, and things like that. So if you just want to pass those around, it's.
I am gonna pass this around. Make sure the email you have, I think I talked about this at the last meeting. Make sure the email you have on here is the primary email you check and that we can communicate with. And then when it gets back around to you before I leave tonight, I wanna, because I need to delete all the emails. I have like 3 emails for holiday. Like I have all kinds of, I need to get it down to just the ones we actually use. So just make sure the one on here is the correct best one.
And give that one to Rob, give that version of those.
Oh, I do have to
And to
separate.
be fair, I get it. I manage like 4 emails too. It's just all of you only know one of them. And that's the way I would like it to be for everybody.
Just let me know if the one on here is not the one you want us to use, and we
Yes.
will change it and send it back out to you.
Okay.
all.
I'm not, this is, yeah.
Yeah, just
Here,
pick
just
one.
gonna pass around. Let me know. Just let me know before you leave if you would prefer a different email
Thank
being used.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's all I have.
is that it? Does anyone else have any new business they would like to bring up to the board? Okay, we will officially adjourn the official part of this meeting and Robin can stop recording.
Okay, and it is 8:45, so,
Is there a second part to this?